My name is Carol Woody, and I'm a fish biologist with the Petersburg Ranger District on the Tongass National Forest in southeast Alaska. And right now we're on Chugach Island, and Chugach Island's located about 100 miles south of Juneau and about 50 miles east of Mitkoff Island. And here we're in the bay, we're in Port Camden, which is a bay on Chugach Island on the east side, and we're at an egg box project. And the project is to help provide chum salmon to the commercial fishery. And what I'm going to do right now is explain what these egg boxes, how the egg boxes work, and then what I'd like to do is sort of talk you through the enhancement work that we did this year to expand this project. And right here we've got a chum salmon egg box, egg incubation box. And this project started in 1985. And the effort was, we found some springs that were very, very high quality water. It was spring water, so it's very, very clean. It's of a constant temperature, so it doesn't freeze up in the winter. And also there was a source of broodstock here. You can see the fish all swimming up the river down there right now. The chum salmon are starting to move in. What we did is actually my predecessor, Jim Franzel, they put in a test egg box, and this is one of the original boxes that were put in. And up above here, there's some springs in the area above me, and what they did is they created a little dam and a little filtration box and a piping system that fed into this box. And it's all buried, but there's a PVC line that feeds into the bottom of this box. And then the water flows up. There's a perforated aluminum bottom here. The water flows up and then out this exit hole. And what we do in the fall is we'll catch male and female salmon from the stream. And you clonk them on the heads, and we bring them up here, and then we take the eggs from the females and put them in a bucket, take the eggs from the milk from the males and put it in a separate bucket, 5 males and 5 females. And then we mix that up, rinse it out, and then what we do is, these are our bear piñatas. You can see them up in the tree up here. And what we do is we'll put a layer of these, they're plastic bio rings. And we'll throw a layer in the box here. And here's sort of what they look like. They're an artificial substrate. And what they do is they provide they're sort of artificial rocks. And we'll lay a layer of these in the box. And then we'll take the eggs from the females, the ones that we've mixed with the milk. We put a layer of these down, we put a layer of the eggs, and we just keep layering them until in each box we have about 300,000 eggs. So what we do then is we nail the boxes up so the bears can't get into them, and we nail them up and leave them for the winter. And January, February, the eggs start hatching out, and the little fish, they still have their egg sacs on them, their yolk sacs, and what they do is they stay down and they absorb their yolk sacs, and they hang out probably about a month, and then they'll swim out through this little exit here. So the little fish swim out, and they stay in the creek for about a month, and then they emigrate to the sea where they spend 4 to 5 years and then return as adults to breed. So this is your little mini demonstration of the bear piñata. But these are really nice. They're very easy to clean. We figure out how many hatch in the spring. We come out here, and the ones that don't hatch, the dead eggs are in here. So we count the dead eggs. So we can figure out, what we do is we know how many eggs we've put in here. And what we do is we count the dead eggs, compare it to the number of live ones that we put in here, and we figure out what our mortality was. At this site, we had 98% hatch from all the boxes, which is very good. And it's a high-quality water. We also, once we've filled up a box, because these are spring-fed systems, there's quite a bit of nitrogen gas that's within them, and sometimes you get gases that build up on the eggs and the biorings, and they'd float up and they would float out of here. So we rigged this system up so to keep the eggs in. What we did this year is expanded this project because it has been so successful. We wanted to increase the capacity to 3 million eggs at this site. All right, from where we're standing here, you can see the construction work that we did this year to expand the site. And if you look up there, you can see it's our combination French drain dam system. And what that does, collects the water for us. You can see where the mound of rocks is coming down, and underneath that there's an 8-inch PVC pipe that brings water right into this box here. And we can control all our flows in here. This is our head box, and from here we have a whole series of 2-inch pipes that feed into each of these egg boxes. Each of the egg boxes has a valve that you can control. A minimum requirement for the boxes for them to run is 30 gallons per minute, and we're getting 60 gallons per minute or better out of these. So we bury all the lines to protect them from curious bears, because they like to chew on our equipment. And the boxes are pretty much the same as the plywood boxes we had. The water feeds in there, and then there's a hole out on the other side that's an outlet. And these have perforated bottoms, solid sides, and pretty much the same thing. We're hoping that we can train the chums so that they'll come in right there, and we can just catch them right here and spawn them. And all this work, all this area was cleared out. It used to be covered with berry bushes, and APC loaned us a backhoe for a couple of days and helped us do the whole dam area, and helped carve out this area to hold the egg boxes. So it's going to make it a lot easier to work in here, and it's also going to provide about 54,000 more fish to the commercial fishery, which is estimated about $300,000 per year. Today we're on Mitkoff Island, on the southern tip of Mitkoff Island at Omer Creek. And last year the Forest Service initiated a sport fishing enhancement program on our district here, the Petersburg Ranger District. And this was the first site we started with. And what we did here was, there's a nice pool here that's good to fish for salmon. There's a bunch of salmon in there now, and maybe we'll get a couple of them in. But there's this big log here that was blocking your ability to cast into this pool. And so all we did was we bucked this log, we cut this log, moved it over to the side against this boulder, and then we tied up this root wad here. There's a cable going around the root wad over here on the bank, and what that did was it helped create coho rearing habitat for the little guys to hide. And then now we've got this pool accessible. You can see the salmon swimming on the other side of that downed log right there. But with the initiation of this project, we had also planned a access trail so that people could come and fish the pools that we did enhancement work on in conjunction with Trout Unlimited. And the people of the town, when they heard we wanted to build an access trail here, they asked that the trail, at least part of the trail, be barrier-free access, and that there would be at least 2 sites that were accessible that had fishing platforms, so that people of varying abilities would be able to fish the sites. And so what we're going to do now is go ahead and walk over and look at the trail. The Omer Creek Trail project has been made possible by a number of cooperators. The local Trout Unlimited chapter has worked to raise funds. They wrote a proposal and were able to raise $10,000 through a grant from the Alaska Department of Fish and Game. The Southeast Alaska Guidance Association from Juneau, Alaska, is also another cooperator and partner on this project, and they're the actual trail crew. And I'd like to introduce Jenny Gomez.
Hi, Southeast Alaska Guidance Association works with youth at risk, and they go out and they build different trails. Some of them are like this, and others are plank trails. They also do a lot of gapping and stuff. What the initials mean is Southeast. Saga, and Saga, that's right. I forgot. I looked for them. No, but it's really good. The kids learn. What it is a work-orientated program mostly. And they're supposed to learn how to work, and they get paid for it. They're not just volunteers. They get paid through different organizations. I'm not quite sure how they get paid, but most of them get paid, I think it is every other week or once a month. But it's really good. They live out in the woods, or sometimes they live in trailers or whatever. And they learn how to work. Most of them, it's like their first job. So they're like, oh, I don't know, what do I do? But,
so the Guidance Association provides the kids an outdoor educational experience, teaches them work skills that they can use to get into, to help get into the job market later on.
Right.
Part of the project here it's developed into an interpretive trail, and along the trail there will be a series of signs to teach people about the salmon resource and its relationship to the human resource within the community and through time. And there'll be your typical salmon life cycle signs, but there'll also be ones that teach people how salmon find their way back to their home streams. And what's come out of this interpretive portion of the project is we see this as being a learning tool to use in the school program, in the high school program. And this trail will be integrated into a teaching program and an aquatic education program in the high school. One aspect of the trail here is that there's going to be interpretive signs placed along it, and the signs will be used in an aquatic education program at the schools in Petersburg to help teach people about salmon life cycles, how they find their way back to their home stream, and also about the human resources and their relationship to the salmon resources through time.
Yeah, my name's Neil Anderson, and we're here at the site of the Big Lake Fish Pass project. This project is to install an Alaskan aluminum steep pass on this site to pass coho and sockeye salmon. We'll also get pink salmon and possibly chum salmon. This project's been underway now for almost 3 months. The assembly of the metal sections has taken place in the town of Thorn Bay. This project's taking place on the Tongass National Forest, the Ketchikan area, and the Thorn Bay Ranger District. I'm the fish enhancement biologist that helped survey this potential project. And the crew you see here are Forest Service employees hired by the Ketchikan area of the Tongass, and they're strictly a fish enhancement project crew. This project's anticipated to cost approximately $300,000. The project benefits are approximately $200,000 and $250,000 a year when we achieve full stocking. This project was put into place because the current fish pass is only about 25% of what the habitat upstream will support. The falls here was too great of a velocity barrier and too great of a vertical jump requirement for the majority of the fish to pass the site. With the fish ladder, all the returning fish can be expected to pass the site. This is the Rio Roberts fish ladder. It's an Alaskan steep pass design. This waterfall was a total barrier to coho salmon before the project. We're in the middle of our stocking efforts now. We've stocked this 2 successive springs with coho pre-smolts. We've got 2, possibly 3 more years of stocking, and this project will then be self-sustaining in that the fish will come back each year and restock naturally the new habitat upstream. This project costs about $150,000 and is expected to produce $45,000 to $50,000 worth of coho salmon annually. Again, this project is exclusively a coho project, although there will be benefits to steelhead and sea run cutthroat and dolly varden. There are a number of different reasons why salmon don't pass certain sites. Generally it's related to either it's too great of a vertical jump for them to make. Sometimes narrow constrictions which don't offer large vertical jumps offer water velocities that are too great for the fish to swim against. Say in this particular site it was a vertical jump requirement that the fish couldn't meet. They simply couldn't jump high enough to pass this site. So we bypassed this waterfall with a steep pass design. Steep pass design allows the fish to swim through lowered water velocities on a steep incline without having to jump. The fish move up the steep pass section and turn in the square box you see in the center, which is the turning pool. From the turning pool out, that's a straight flume. It's set at about a 1% gradient, which is just pretty much level, and they just swim right on out. There is no steep pass design in the upper flume section. The steep pass design is intended to lower the water velocities on the steep sections.
Hi, my name is Dave Johnson, and I'm the Wildlife and Fish Staff Officer on the Craig Ranger District. We're currently standing on a viewing platform overlooking the Cable Creek Bio-Enhancement Project, Cable Creek Fish Pass. The fish pass was constructed in 1986. It's constructed by the Youth Conservation Corps and some district personnel. The Cable Creek Fish Pass is a part of the Rise to the Future program here on the Ketchikan area. In 1985, we constructed the Sunny Creek Fish Pass over in the west arm of Chomley. And then last year, we constructed the Dog Salmon Fish Pass over in Polk Inlet, which we'll be taking a look at a little bit later today. Basically, this fish pass project was designed for predominantly coho and also steelhead to be able to access the upper portions of the Cable Creek drainage system. Prior to that, prior to 86, Cable Creek was considered, or this particular falls was considered a complete barrier for migrating coho coming up to spawn. This project's a little different than most projects in that the design was more of a pool, weir, or jump pool type of a design versus the traditional Alaska A40 steep pass. And basically, we've got a system of 5 pools here that, with a little bit of concrete and rebar, allows a more aesthetic or natural-looking type of fish pass rather than an aluminum steep pass, A40 steep pass. Yeah, I got that. We get an eagle picture. Okay, now we're standing on the side of Dog Salmon Creek. In FY89, we constructed the steep pass that you see here in front of us. The project was a project coordinated with Ketchikan Pulp Company, Gildersleeve Logging, and South Coast Incorporated, the road contractors. It was a partnership that involved a considerable amount of work, actual construction work, on the part of those 3 corporations. The Forest Service provided the materials and the design work for the A40 steep pass that you see down here in front of us. Then we have this flume that was blasted with an outlet structure up on the other end, and then the Alaska Division of Fish and Game Fred Division also provided support for us as well. And it was a really interesting project. It was the first partnership project that we've had on the area, and it involved a fair amount of coordination for the first time. It was also part of the Rise to the Future program that we had similarly with the Cable Creek project. The project was done primarily for pink and chum salmon. The falls was a partial barrier for sockeye and coho, but was a complete barrier for pink and chum. The partners saved the Forest Service approximately $100,000, and it turned out that we're getting a lot of folks coming and actually visiting the site, and we hope to turn it into a recreational site as well. And we've got a pretty good pad here for location for picnic tables, and we'll see how that goes. Also, this project is kind of a forerunner to a project that we have planned next year, which is the Old Franks project, and that project hopefully will involve about 6 to 8 partners. Will involve 2 steep passes instead of 1, and in terms of the habitat to be enhanced, we're looking at about 800 or 900 acres of some pretty important coho rearing habitat in the upper Old Franks drainage.
Hey, my name is Don Martin, and I'm a fisheries biologist here on the Juneau Ranger District, part of the Chatham area of the Tongass National Forest. What we're talking about today is a cooperative project we have with the State Department of Fish and Game here on the Eagle River, which is approximately 10 miles north of town. It's a coho salmon rearing habitat enhancement project. In 1988, we initiated this project. We did work here in 1988 and 1989, and as you can see, what we've done is dug down to groundwater to provide rearing habitat for juvenile coho salmon. We're about 300 yards from the Eagle River, and what we built is a series of rearing channels and a couple of deep ponds for the rearing fish, and we've connected them to the river with a narrow connecting channel. And the object was to collect groundwater here on the floodplain to fill the ponds, and then the groundwater would flow down the connecting channel to the river, and the juvenile or fry coho salmon would come up the channel and be able to utilize this rearing habitat. It's approximately half acre in surface water area and about almost 1,000 feet long. And again, we have 2 ponds that are up to 10 feet deep, and the object of that is to enable the fish to overwinter, because this area will freeze over. We took the gravel we removed from the channel and the ponds and stacked it where I'm standing now and on the other side, and we've seeded that with grass. And again, that happened initially happened in 1988. You see now we're getting some native vegetation in. We've got some burnet and some different sorts of berries and ferns growing. We also did some willow planting along the banks, and the object of that is to provide some bank stabilization in some of the steeper banks, as well as provide some habitat for the fish in terms of overhanging vegetation, and it'll also provide terrestrial insects for the fish to eat. You can also see that we've dumped a bit of trees and slash in the water for cover, and the fish will be able to use that in the interim until the willow grow up big. Okay, we've worked real closely with Alaska Department of Fish and Game Fred Division biologists on this entire project, in both planning of the project as well as the monitoring system. And what we developed was a monitoring system where we capture fish coming and leaving the pond system, the rearing habitat that we created, with this trap. And what it is, it's at the outlet of the rearing channel system, and right before our connecting channel runs to the Eagle River. And we have a two-way trap. It's divided in the middle by a barrier, and the fish entering the trap become trapped in here, and the fish leaving the pond and entering the trap on this side become trapped in here, so that we can keep them separated at all times. And what we've been doing, we've been working up the fish that come they're on their way into the pond. weighing and measuring and counting them, and then letting them go in the pond. And the fish that are leaving, we work them up and let them go below, downstream of the trap. And the idea is to monitor the use of the habitat, try to determine what its production actually is. We can learn all kinds of things. We can get growth rate information. We can get how many fish overwinter in the ponds, how many smolt this project actually produces, and how much summer rearing habitat it produces as far as the number of fish that use it just in the summertime. 39. Since we initiated the monitoring, we've had approximately 3,000 coho, salmon, fry, and juveniles move into the ponds, and probably about 100 of those have backed back out already. And just recently, the last couple of days, we're starting to get more and more the fry backing out. Today it looks like we're going to have about 40 fish coming out, whereas we had less than 10 coming in. In addition to measuring the size of the fish and the number of fish coming in and out of the pond, our monitoring also includes water quality data that's going to be taken throughout the year. And currently we're taking it about once a week, and what we do is measure the temperature and the dissolved oxygen at various levels in the pond and in the channel here. And that information will tell us, give us a better idea of the quality of habitat that this is providing. The entire monitoring project carries on 12 months a year. In the wintertime, late this fall, this outlet stream will dry up and the ponds will freeze over. And until that time, we'll be monitoring this trap on a daily basis. And in the wintertime, we continue our water quality work through the ice. And we hope to be able to do this monitoring for at least 3 years and try to track at least this generation of fry that we've seen come in this year, track them through the time they smolt out. Okay, this is the trail that the contractor used to get the equipment to and from the project site. During our public scoping part of the analysis of this project, we learned that the public was concerned about access to the site. There was some concern that the equipment would leave a trail, a permanent trail to the site, and that it would become an eyesore as well as maybe used by off-road vehicles and cause further resource damage. So to mitigate this, we had the contractor, the last piece of equipment out was an excavator, and we had him pick up with the arm of the excavator logs and stumps on his way out to put behind him. As you can see, it worked out pretty well. This project was done, or the equipment was in here real late last fall, September, and it's now August, so it's been just less than a year. And the vegetation's coming back real nice. You can see the stumps and logs that he put across the trail, and I think in a few years won't even be able to recognize this as any sort of a trail at all.
I'm Mark Wenger. I'm the fisheries biologist on the Seward Ranger District, and this is one of our salmon viewing areas. This is Dave's Creek spawning channel that was built in '83 by the Forest Service, and they installed 3 log weirs, drop structures, and then backfilled it with spawning size gravel, and it's we've seen king salmon, sockeye, and silver salmon spawning in this area, and then it also makes an ideal salmon viewing area. The highway is about 25 yards behind Bill, who's doing the camera work here, so it's real accessible. We have Turn Lake Campground is right here, so nice pull-off for people to take a short break or lunch. And unfortunately, we don't see any salmon in here today. We're a little bit early, but a little bit later on in August there'll be red salmon and
right into September there'll be silver salmon. So there's about two month period here where you're pretty good likelihood to see some salmon. We're at Jerome Lake now. It's on the Seward Highway just before the Seward Soldotna Y. And what we propose to do here is it would be a cooperative project with recreation and our fishery shop at the Seward District, is to put a handicap accessible fishing trail or platform that would lead off the parking area here, and the ramp would go down at about a 5 or 8% grade down the hillside, and then probably have to have another switchback down to the lake level, and then have a boardwalk of some sort crossing the marshy area below us here, and then run a trail along the far side of the lake with at least one handicap fishing platform. And Jerome Lake's got a stock population of rainbow trout. Fish and Game stocks it with 3,000 rainbow trout every other year, and it's also got a resident population of Dolly Varden trout. And way down at the far end of the lake we have a trickle dam, which is a structure to prevent out-migration of the trout into Jerome Creek and then down into the Kenai system. But it's a real accessible lake. As you can see, the highways run immediately adjacent to to Jerome Lake. This is an example of a fish viewing area in the Seward Ranger District at Moose Creek, and we've got about a quarter-mile trail heading down from the Seward Highway, and it ends at a boardwalk or a little platform right on the banks of Moose Creek. And the platform itself is starting to deteriorate a little bit, but it's still a real good area for tourists to just take 10 minutes out of take a 10-minute break and come down and watch some salmon spawning. We're in the 10 minutes we've been here, we've actively seen fish big and reds and actually been spawning. So it's yeah, this is the Russian River, as you can see, and this is the most popular bank fishing sports fishery in the state. And as you can see from in front of you here, with the number of anglers that fish here every year, we have quite a bit of resource damage along the banks, bank stabilization problems from anglers entering and exiting the river, and just a lot of trampling of vegetation, streamside vegetation. And I'm the fisheries biologist on a 7-person interdisciplinary team that just finished up a 5-month planning process. We had a hydrologist, a couple of recreation people, landscape architect, engineer, and a cultural resource specialist. And we looked at all the problems that occur here at the Russian River and came up with a plan of how to rehabilitate the damage that's occurred from the intense angling pressure. The plan mainly involves rehabilitating the angler's trail, blocking off areas of vegetation that have been really badly trampled, and reseeding those areas, doing some bank stabilization work, which would involve anything from gabions and boulder placement in the stream to some in-stream barbs which direct the current away from the impacted areas. We're planning on providing handicap accessibility to a couple points along the river. One of our proposed areas for a fishing platform would be just upstream here where you see all the girdled roots. We'd have a fishing platform that would allow 2 to 4 handicap anglers to fish from. To access the platform, we'll have a ramp that'll come down from the campground area to about a 5% grade. And then we're also going to be rebuilding the 4 stairways that come down from Russian River Campground and provide more of a even run and rise for anglers to come down. Yeah, we're here at Hope Mining Company in Hope, Alaska. This is on the northwest corner of the Seward Ranger District on the Chugach, and this is a site of past mining that's been done by the Hope Mining Company. And what we're proposing to do here in the fisheries program is to reclaim initially four of 20 settling ponds and convert those into rearing ponds for juvenile coho salmon. And Resurrection Creek's got a small run of coho salmon, and we're hoping that by providing more rearing habitat for the juveniles that will increase the adult run back to Resurrection Creek and provide more of a sports fishery for the community of Hope. Yeah, these are 3 settling ponds that the Hope Mining Company claim, and these 3 have been dormant for about 10 years and have been more or less naturally reclaimed here. The beavers have moved back into them, and there's control structures in the 3 ponds that the beaver more or less maintains naturally. And what we'd like to do is tie these into Resurrection Creek right here about 50 feet away and provide free migration in and out of the settling or the to-be rearing ponds to provide increased overwintering habitat for Resurrection Creek. This year we'll be doing some mapping of the ponds to find out maximum depths, acreage of surface area that the ponds will provide, and more or less just do a full-scale evaluation of the potential of these ponds to rear fish. If looks like there's enough overwinter dissolved oxygen in the ponds and they're deep enough to prevent freezing, we'll try to tie these in as soon as possible to where we can get natural migration in and out of the ponds.